Fun. Very nice.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of DESIGNathon. I'm super excited for today's. You guys all know I've been talking about it for a month. We have an awesome show today about autonomous agents and the superheroes that are building them. It's no secret. I think these guys are just phenomenal. I love the work they do. I wish I could do it myself, and maybe by the end of today I can. I need to introduce Manaz, my glorious co-host. Hi, Manaz. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be here again with you.
So, all right, let's get to it. Guys, if you don't mind introducing yourselves, and I thought it would be fun. I keep on seeing this thing. If you had to tell your drunk uncle what you do for a living in one sentence, how do you tell them? What do you say? So if you could tell us your name and in one sentence who you are and what you do, that would be kind of fun. You want to go first, Ocean?
Sure. My name's Ocean, full name Haiyang Li. So I play with computers. Yeah, it's difficult to explain to a drunk uncle like this.
All right. Well, you could tell us for real. I just thought that would be fun to try.
Okay, so I have been doing an open source multi-agent framework called Line AGI for quite a while. It stands for Language Interoperable Network. It's meant to design agentic workflow in a completely transparent, observable manner so that you can trust the system that you build. Awesome.
Thank you. All right, Reuven, I've been such a fangirl for such a long time, which whatever. I'm not ashamed to say it. Please introduce yourself. Although you probably need no introduction. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate it. And I get that question from my drunk uncles. What do you do? I tell them I build, brains for computers, and that seems to allow people to understand what I do, because it kind of is what I do. I'm the co-founder of the Agentics Foundation. It's sort of a not-for-profit focused on the adoption, creation, and sort of use of agentic technologies, which basically automated agents that can go and work with little to no human oversight. But the critical part of what we do is we allow and enable people to be the sort of orchestrators, the engineers of these systems. We're dedicated to making that a profession. So that's basically in a very, very simple way, what I do right now. I'm a consultant.
Thank you. Ron's in the house. You guys said he would no show, but here he is.
Hey, I'm only West Coaster here. I'm like, wait a sec, I thought it was 12 and my alarm's going off at 7 in the morning on Saturday.
Oh man, we appreciate you doing it. We appreciate you so much. Can you just tell us, we were playing a little game. Tell us who you are, and then in one sentence, how would you tell your drunk uncle what you do for a living? Like imagine Thanksgiving, and he's like, "What do you do?"
Sure. Well, the answer I'd give him is probably what you have to give every other person on the planet right now. If you're doing AI, you can't say any AI is too obscure, right? I do AI. What does that mean? I use ChatGPT or I write swarms, so. I usually just default to computer nerd or something, along those lines. But I've had that problem since I was a kid, right? Because if you're in IT, the spectrum is massive and the differences are huge. But to the average person, they're thinking, Saturday Night Live computer dude helping you turn on monitors and things like that. So.
Awesome. Okay. So. Bron, just so you know, we just kind of chat like friends. I throw a question out there and y'all can fight over who takes it.
Sure.
Just for some baseline stuff. Most people know what agents are to some level. What are the differences between an agent, an AI agent, an autonomous agent? Like you see people talking about this on LinkedIn all the time, like, oh, you're using autonomous wrong. Oh, you're using agent wrong. Can you guys get everybody straight?
one of the things that people don't understand with agents is when they think autonomous, they think like long running things that are going to run for days or weeks or forever. And a lot of these agents don't need to run forever. They need to run for a moment. And when you look at these systems, there's two paths that you also hear about, like this idea that agents are sort of going to replace people in the jobs and tasks that we currently do, which is possible and in some areas likely. But more important, what this is doing is filling in gaps in what we're both good at. Like it amplifies those traits. I'm better at those things, but it also fills in those valleys that are in the areas that where I'm not as good at or don't want to do or don't like to do. And it's so for us, I think for me anyway, it's about using these technologies to empower us to do more than we thought we could do otherwise. And that's like not technical at all, right? That's more philosophical, but that's kind of where I come at it.
I think there is really no good or wrong way of using agents. So it's really silly to me that if somebody say you're using autonomous realm, I mean, you can be violating like security protocols or other considerations, but we're at very early age of discovery. So I would encourage people just go out and explore and then see how can you use it to actually solve your daily pain. Like that is probably the best way you can learn. It is by using it to actually help you.
I find you need to have human in the loop at this point a lot, like because it's not how autonomous is your agent, it's what kind of quality do you get out of it. It doesn't matter if it runs for 5 days and gives you total garbage, right? Like nowadays, you with Claude Flow and stuff, you can have and HiveMind, you can have them run for 8 hours and you can max out your Claude Pro account, but it's all about output. So, and nowadays you need, let's say, different stages. You want the agent to run, have either another LLM check it or a human check it, verify the output, go to the next stage. So eventually we can maybe get to full autonomy, but we're nowhere close. You know, it's all about what is the maximum each agent can do that works. So let's say we take the very top models, GPT-5 or Anthropic. If they fail, nothing's going to work beyond that. So if that one fails, how do you get it to pass? And that's sort of the limit. Whatever the limit of your maximum most intelligent model can do, having 5 of that model do them autonomously doesn't correct the fact that it can't execute that task by itself given the current inputs. So, it's eventually we'll get there, but it's a long way away on transformer model current state before we're going to get fully autonomous agents.
Good to know. So this one I've been asking myself for ages, and I don't know the answer, and I'm very grateful you're here to answer it. Why swarms and not just one agent to rule them all?
Well, I think I take a different stance than when Braun said for full autonomy. So when you're saying that things aren't there yet, I think that it depends on what you're trying to solve. If I'm looking for autonomy to understand, how the certain medical brain waves and other things are happening in real time and take action based on it, we can do that. If we're looking at systems capable of adapting and modifying their own code and own algorithms and adapting to the inputs, the sensory inputs that are coming to the agent without us having to sort of, interact with it all the time to get it to do what we want, then we've achieved that. And there's a lot of this discussion around things like AGI that say like, well, when systems are capable of self-modification, self-learning, and running with basically no human oversight, that is the sort of first stage of this idea of, general intelligence. Now, I don't pretend to think we can solve every problem known to man, with one model, right? And that kind of monolithic approach to language models that trick people into thinking that there's like this one approach that's going to solve every problem. But when you look at technologies are usually vertical. They're usually specifically focused on a problem, and then we maximize that. Televisions and mobile phones, televisions is a very specific use case in tech. So when you look at AGI, you're going to see these areas that come together. It can do this particular area better than others, and then we're going to grow into other verticals. That's random thoughts on a Saturday morning, but
Thank you.
The way I look at AGI is, what does the A stands for? To me, it does not stand for artificial, it stands for automated. So that's how I look at this kind of so-called agentic process neither, because down the bone, I do not believe in, I don't like such terminologies. To me, they're just like an intelligent router to how you can go through from unstructured input to careful triggered actions or events from the system. So the interactions of this kind of routers become very interesting when you have many of them. One way that we like parallel is it's a lot more efficient, and then it increases the so-called neurodiversity of opinion and the quality of the output kind of just to a notch. But to going back to Brown's point about your ceiling is the limit of your best model, that is not necessarily true. Just like Ruth said, it really depends on what problem you're trying to solve. And also, using multi-agent is in Cycloid code, that is only a very narrow example of how multi-agents are being used. Like multi-model is quite, I think NVIDIA had this paper about small language model as the future of agentic workflows, which I really agree with. You're using kind of like this kind of little thing to handle that specific little task really, really well. And then so the point of agentic engineer is to really find ways to chain them together that solve your problem.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Okay, I wondered about that for a long time. Go ahead, Manas.
I have a question. Yeah. For me, I know that this is something that's been around for a while and it's not something new. So I wanted to ask you, can you do a comparison between what agents used to be and what they're becoming now that makes them so important right now and everybody is talking about them?
Agent, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. What?
Agent is down to the bone an abstraction that you use it to kind of get something done. You don't really care about what's going in the middle. The reason why we call it agent is we assume some kind of proactive action from that kind of entity or that process. So why is it becoming so important? Because that proactivity has been fueled by AI models, and it's becoming crazily useful. So what it used to be, I think in the 90s, there was some kind of like an expert system that's agent-based, and there were a lot of rule-focused system based on that. But I'm not too sure. I think the AI-based system, the ability to trigger action is the real thing here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've agents have been around since there have been computers. Literally the first agent was created when you put the first punch sheet into a computer. An agent is an algorithm, right? It's a series of steps and that are defined declaratively. Or no, well, in our case, declaratively, but hypothetically, in the olden days, there was more, specific in sort of a sequential step. Like it would do a particular application, it would do process automation, it would do, robotic, steps. And as long as you stayed within the very structure of those steps, you were great, right? And these systems are used, throughout most computing systems today. But what changed with the advance of sort of attention-based language models and other approaches is now we have the ability to understand the nuance of what's happening and create decisions based on a kind of structured thought process, right? And so now these agents that have been around again for decades are capable of moving beyond their original programming to take in different types of logic, decision, and hopefully comprehension of what those things mean in a way that allows us to say, rather than you're always doing 1, 2, 3, we're giving you a broad sort of, here's the input, and here's what I expect. But everything in between can now be sort of fudged a little bit by this kind of interplay of the insertion of data, decisions, and problems, solutions, that sort of thing, which gives it new sort of way to navigate. And that's sometimes referred to as declarative. That's the big sort of change right now. And before about 2022, that wasn't even possible. The language models just weren't capable enough to understand nuance. So the real big change that we've seen over the last year and a half is the rise of a mixture of experts, which Ocean just mentioned, different parts of a model that have different capabilities and understanding, medical or legal or technical or other things. And then the other part, we realized we could make them reason by adding the time, additional time for them to think. So these are sort of time series components. The longer it thinks, the more it can ponder, the better it can sort of go in these loops internally to get past problems it might have. And all of a sudden, we're building these systems capable of building other systems, which is now where we are. And so there's this kind of recursion looping back on itself, making each sort of version of itself better, which is just crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, the recursion is really a great, a very important concept in this. I actually personally don't really think that reasoning is the longer term approach or the solution here, because it is, for one, very wasteful. It consumes so much more tokens. And I'm pretty sure that we can find more efficient way to do this, especially want to popularize this kind of agency to more people even more. So essentially, we are having a process in the middle that's very good at natural language processing or any kind of unstructured data that you throw at it. And then when it comes out, the output, you can validate it in your system to do things on your behalf. So right now, we're trying to let that output be as good as possible by letting it run for very long. So I think the future might be neurosymbolic, or we validate the output in a different way, or use that output to do more things, and then let the recursion cycle be a little bit less while achieving the same kind of quality. I think that's where we're willing to pay a lot of effort to.
Awesome. Wow. Ron, do you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, it's hard to define agent, right? Because it's becoming, give it a narrow set of tasks and a custom prompt. I don't know, is Claude Code an agent? It's a coding agent, and you have companies like Relevance AI. They'll give you a cartoon, give it a name, and give it an LLM with a little bit of prompting, and now it's an agent, right? Mm-hmm. So it's getting kind of blurry, and then at some point you just have to almost ignore it, right? There's 50 things you can do with every LLM, and if you just give it a name and a series of prompts, it becomes email agent. Copywriting agent, but then you have these sort of general LLM, let's say ChatGPT, it's a everything agent. Do you really need to make a custom GPT for it, or can you just give it a prompt and you've got your email agent by giving it a one-shot prompt, right? So I don't think you should get hung up on the word agent, really. It's the problem with AI is everything moves so fast, right? Yeah, it's a novel idea. People have to come up with a term, try to put it in a box, but with things like swarms, they're destroying the boxes as they go and making new boxes. So it's better just focusing on, solving real world problems with the current tool set. And I think the transformer models are we're just iterating on the transformer model. We haven't seen a huge difference. We're sort of tweaking the current model. And I think we have to get personally just beyond transformer. If we're going to get any kind of breakthrough, we can go a long way in maximizing the transformer system with agentic workflows and a whole bunch of, really it's custom prompting and agentic workflows, but we're going to need something else. If you look at Claude Flow and Swarm, it's about memory context, because for me, the context window is my biggest hurdle. Claude has around 200K. if you fill up your Claude MD, it's taking a chunk of that. You only the AI only has a certain amount of thinking space, and for Claude, you're going to have to compress that every little while. If you use another software like Windsurf, it's got its own mechanism. It'll keep going and going and going, but it'll start to bog down as the context window fills up. So you're gonna, a human, you don't hit I've run out of thinking. Hold on, I got to erase my memory, and now let's start over. So, that I don't know how they're going to solve it. Brute force is not usually the most elegant solution. So we have to see what's in store for GPT-10 or.
So how's it going in the realm of getting these things integrated with legacy enterprise systems? How's that working out?
Well, there's certainly no shortage of pilots. Everybody in there is doing a pilot of some sort. I've been fairly fortunate. Right now I'm working with roughly about 30 Fortune 500s. I would say of those 30 Fortune 500s, the vast majority are just doing pilots. They're not production. And we're really early days in this. Sometimes it feels a little bit like an echo chamber. Because the people I talk to are already sort of drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit, but outside of that bubble, we're light years ahead of the rest of the industry. I think we're probably probably at least a year or two before we start seeing broad acceptance and usage of this. But that's fine. You can do pretty well in an early stage market when everyone's trying to figure out what and how to do it. So right now that is the sort of, I think, the level set. Now startups are different. They're building autonomous systems, or they're integrating it with their things they're building net new. But if you're talking legacy, and when you say legacy, I'm thinking enterprise. Mm-hmm. No, we're seeing sprawl. Everyone is going and using ChatGPT and building LangChain, agents, and those are kind of randomly being spread out through the company in a kind of like dark, dark web of sorts within it. So it's a little hard to track all that within these companies. So I think the next step for enterprises is likely to find all these random little agents and systems people are building and somehow create some kind of governance or unification to understand where and what's happening. But it's the Wild West for sure.
Yeah, which brings me kind of, go ahead, Manaz.
No, you go ahead.
No, I want to hear your question.
I wanted to see, do you think the MCP gonna be the new www?
For me, it is.
I don't know. Is it gonna be?
I love MCP. I build an MCP for everything, and I never use anybody else's. Just one thing. I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to dominate here, but one thing I want to say: if you are looking at MCPs, avoid using what they call streamable HTTP. So MCPs come in two flavors, right? One is a URL, basically, as you point out, the the www. The other, and that's dangerous. The other is what they call a sort of command line or studio sort of approach, which basically runs locally. The problem you're going to have with the ones that are remote is there's no real sort of verification, security protocols for most of these things. So they're really easy to manipulate and hack your system. So if you're going to use MCPs, make sure you install the thing locally, preferably open source, and take a close look at what the heck is happening. If you're using Claude Code, for example, ask it to just do a security check on the MCP that you're using. It's when I said Wild West earlier, this is 100 times worse. But that said, it's powerful. This is how I handle all third-party integration. If I want to, create a Photoshop plugin or manipulate my desktop or do whatever, it's an MCP.
Do you see that happening in enterprise though, right now?
No,
not yet. Not yet.
We're early.
We're talk about it.
We're so early.
So early. Yeah.
I think we will see it, but yeah, we're early days.
Yeah. That brings me to the security and guardrails questions that I think everybody sort of has in mind. Me especially, I'm wondering what you think about financial transactions between autonomous agents. Where are we and where are we going, and how does that kind of become secure?
I'm gonna let the crew take this one.
For financial interaction among agents, currently, I don't think we are seeing those much yet. I mean, I heard there are trading bots going on, like trading agents in some crypto markets, and then they go about and made a lot of money to themselves, which is a weird concept. But I certainly do expect agents, as they get smarter and then we will delegate more authority to them, such as making small purchases on our behalf. Just like, so hey, I'll say, Lion, go to Amazon, buy my favorite candy. And then, or something like, I need to decorate my entire new apartment, just buy everything for me. And then I think we are not far away from that. We all have some kind of like system that know you so well, have all the things about you. Let's go back to Brown's point about LM doesn't have enough context. So I think the hottest thing we are doing in this space is context engineering, which is to kind of just in time provide the things the LM need to know, must know to solve the current situation great, because they only have so much little space to use before their performance degrade.
I want to add something quickly. So just the largest space for agents right now is financial by far. If you look at all all the various activities happening on stock trading, crypto trading, bank systems, they're all using agents, all of them. So by far the largest sector for if you're looking at actual like current adoption of, I'm including old school agents along with new school agents. So I'm talking like high frequency trading and those sorts of applications. If you look at the raw numbers in terms of things like GDP, it's by far going to be financial. You know, there's no bigger sector for agents in the world. And when you look at like this idea of sort of e-commerce in agents, the ability to say, I have an agent that's going to go and monitor Amazon and buy me something when the right sort of, you know, vectors match. I need it. It's the cost is right and it has quality or something. It'll go buy it. Now that's emerging for sure. But so if you think of these agents as a proxy for me to do things that I may not want to do, think of it like this. I've got an agent monitoring my fridge. I've got an agent that can interact with Amazon. I've got an agent that knows my calendar, knows I'm out of town, and I don't need any food. And the agent's smart enough to put the combination of those factors together. Therefore, it doesn't need to go and do an order to Amazon or the grocery store and refill my fridge because it knows I'm not actually home. Now, in a traditional world, that wasn't possible because they didn't have contextual awareness to what Ocean was mentioning. The context allows it to understand that I'm away. The reason the fridge is empty is because I don't need any food, and therefore I'm not going to go order that. Right? That's the logic tree that needs to happen in these sorts of systems. We can do that now, really easily. Lion AGI is built to do that.
Yeah, the whole fridge fits in context in that scenario. So someone did a test. They set up, I think it was Claude or Sonnet, as a vending machine. It ran this, like, how long can you run a vending machine with dynamic pricing? And you have to, like, does it make money? Does it hallucinate? Does it go nuts? You know, how I think it ran for like a week. They had different outputs, but as long as it could. It had some, they threw some existential, you know how LLMs try to jailbreak themselves? I think they had to say, you know, if you don't sell enough, you know, cream puffs, someone's going to die or something. And what does the AI do to solve that? But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You should take a look at, and I'm not trying to promote my own products too much here, but I want to mention one that I've been building called Flow Nexus. And basically this is a hosted sort of agent system that allows you to execute sandboxes and various sort of really geeky things. But the part that's interesting is the part you actually don't see. So behind the system, I built what I call a distributed agentic blah, 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 DAA. And basically a distributed autonomous agents. And basically what this does is it runs the business of the business for me as people are interacting, as allocations need to happen and people are doing things that they shouldn't be. It's doing accounting. It's executing against a business plan that was devised that says, here's how you need to operate the business at each step. it can then take the money, hypothetically, that's coming in. I haven't actually turned on Stripe yet, but hypothetically, once I do, any money coming in can then automatically be reinvested into ads that generate more adoption for the platform itself, taking a portion of the income, understanding it, and then executing against the sort of financial plan that it has in place. All of this that I just described is actually implemented and functional using these series of agents that work on behalf of both the end user who are building similar things, as well as the system itself that's capable of understanding how the business needs to operate. And the only thing I do occasionally is I log in the morning, ask my Claude Code how the user adoption is and how those sort of align with my objectives in my business plan. It says, well, you're currently underperforming. You might want to think about writing a LinkedIn post or blah, blah, blah. And it gives me a bit of guidance. Back to Bron's point, it's not 100% autonomous. I'm the guy, but it's running enough that I don't need to bring anyone else in.
Well, therefore, it's automated general intelligence. You are automating the system. You're automating your thoughts into a working system so that you don't have to do them yourself. I have somewhat similar of a system, like my Cloud Code. I set it up. Sorry, Brown. I set it up in the morning. If I don't take my pills, I'll refuse to do like deep work. That one has been very good. I also use that to do a personal get things done coach. So I just dump my brain to it, and then I'll keep track of all of it. That has been really helpful. I really enjoy that mind like water and then just crossing things off. But me having ADHD, I can never finish a to-do. I'll write down 2-3 sheets. In 3 days, I'll forget about all of them. So that has been very helpful to me.
We all have ADHD, by the way. I think I've been told that I'm neurodivergent, whatever the heck that is. So I literally, one of my modules that actually Ocean helped me build was called neurodivergent for exactly that reason. There's a reason why people on sort of the spectrum of sorts work well in AI. We think differently.
100%. I think we're magnetized to each other too. If you put 50 of us in a room, probably 3/4 have been diagnosed, and the other quarter maybe it just hasn't been yet. So yeah,
they don't know.
They just don't know yet. Yeah, 100%. So this is going to be general, but I just want you guys to kind of run with it. The security challenges coming with giving the security challenges around giving agents autonomy, and especially in multi-agent swarms. Developing behaviors no one predicted, intended, dangerous, danger. Speak to that.
Yes. Yeah. It's hella dangerous. 100% it's dangerous. And it's never been easier to hack anything. So all the two sides of the sort of spectrum when it comes to the securing of these things, right? One, you can use it to secure your system. Find me all the possible problems in the system. But then the flip side of that, semantically, I can point it at that random tool or website or whatever and say, that's mine, and find me all the problems with it. And it will. And I'm in, essentially. So the ability to concurrently exploit things in new and novel ways has never been easier and faster. And it's terrifying. There's so many vectors now. If you saw the NPM exploits that came out yesterday, I've been talking about the ability to exploit these systems forever, but apparently, it was discovered yesterday. And now they're going to attempt to lock down the NPMs for GitHub for that purpose. But that's just one example. It's just the ease of which anyone can do what was limited to basically state actors previously are now in the hands of anyone willing to ask the right questions in slightly the right way. And I'm not even talking about just straight up exploit of the language model. That's just convincing it that you're doing something that's ethical.
So if we're going to put this kind of system in an enterprise deployment, you cannot really just let the agents to go about do themselves. There has to be some kind of firewall in the middle, in my opinion. There must be some authentication system and then capability constraints. But the firewall in the middle allows, because agents themselves cannot do anything. Well, in terms of the AI model, they just give you a text output. But if you let your system execute those output, that's actually semi on you. Like you should have some kind of mechanism that prevents that kind of dangerous action even occurring to begin with. Just throw away the bad output. I'm sorry, bro.
That's okay. I was just gonna say that security control is the biggest problem enterprise has. One of our partners, Rob, was just in an event in Quebec, I think, and he talked to 7 or 8 AI companies, and not one of them would admit they're using AI to code. They all say humans are doing 100% of our programming. So, because AI are kind of, you can't fully control AI. If you drop its temperature down to 0, you cripple it, right? So to get quality out of an LLM, you got to give it some freedom. But humans are not good at giving control over to the machine, and you have to have that delicate balance for control and quality and output. And I mean, I got a friend, we both were just chugging away doing this AI stuff. It was kind of going nowhere, but he just got hired by a US company for $250,000 US to go join a bunch of American consultants to consult on companies like Boeing on how to deploy swarms into their dev stream. So none of them are doing it in production, but all of them are paying big bucks to have consultants come explain it, show them how it works. Because we have another guy, David, he's been a project manager for years, teams of 100-man software teams. They're not used to this swarm path has never been done. It's not part of their current workflow. None of their teams know how to use it. Some of them are like, loading up Cursor maybe and doing, help me solve one small isolated bug, but they're not doing an app, full stack app, start to finish with AI. So as, let's say, solo devs, we all did the Swarm project, me, Ocean, and Ruve, and it was almost impossible for other people to join because our pace was 10x, 20x the average developer. So by the time they could even think about what they're going to do, it's already finished and done and on to the next one, right? So it's, I would say if you're all using agentic dev with swarms and everything else, you can only have a couple guys for the humans to be able to keep track of what's going on. So what you see now is a lot of Claude Code projects are trying to be like Ocean. He's like, okay, I'll put the swarm into GitHub so we can make everything an issue. Like it's trying to take the craziness of Swarm and get it into a, let's say, enterprise workflow with a manager and human oversight. And, so that's sort of the big challenge is how do you get the benefit of Swarm and the security and control of, say, enterprise dev? How do you integrate that with existing like a 10-man or 20 or I don't know 100-man team? I don't know how big I've always been in sort of the solopreneur space, but if you're gonna try to do 100-man, that was sort of I did some social media posts, I think you saw it. I'm like, okay, we can start to take down SaaS apps as solopreneurs, because if I'm 10x or 100x, I'm the equivalent of a 10-man or a 100-man team. And I think Ruve was showing how many lines of code I put out in a day. I don't know, 5 million or whatever the hell it was, right? It's ridiculous. And people are always shooting down, but it's all crap. But if it's all crap and then at the end it works, who cares, right? Like, yeah, I did it by myself and I output a, clone of Trello. It's messy, but I did it. I didn't take $100 million and 200 guys, and it didn't take a year. It took 2 weeks. So, you can always work on it later. Like, yeah. So if you get it all working, hire Ocean and clean it up for a month. But you've already, that's why these days, it used to be the software team, you needed them to launch an app. That's why you're seeing apps come out of the weeds, because now you need a good idea. You can bang that out as in a weekend, maybe, right? You can get it to users. You can get a small user base playing around with it and see if they like it. So the whole software stream is disrupted, right? It used to be make giant plans, get funding, hire guys, that's all changed. So I think when we first started, we were saying we're going towards disposable software, right? If you can, I mean, everyone eventually will be able to have custom software for everything. You know, you can make up a problem in your mind, and you know, in a few years, say you'll be able to go to your fridge and say, my son is playing sports and he needs a plan for shooting better pucks, and he's got math on Tuesday, and you know, just give it any kind of crazy stupid plan you want, and then you and have it manage it. It'll make the app and it'll email all the other parents and organize the Saturday, you know, bake off. Like, it's so that kind of and you can probably get it to do, like I say, you can, a lot of companies, let's say old school apps are super expensive. Let's say you have a SEO module, it's $1,500 a month, right? You can, if you can spend 20 grand to clone that, and now it's essentially free, and you have 30 staff using it, all of a sudden the metrics work. And on top of that, as you're building it out, you can customize the hell out of it to exactly what you want. Because I'm working on some stuff in the medical space, and if you're a dentist, you need totally different things than the doctor does, right? And a lot of the, you know, dentists get ignored, so that they get a something made for the medical community, and they're like, oh, the templates are all wrong and none of this works. So you're going to be able to have custom software for your business, big or small. The full whatever you want is currently possible. It's just a very few people can make it, and I'd say costs are still, you know, relatively high. But as AI gets better and all the kids who are going to be out of work because of AI can do it, you'll have, you know, more teenagers, 20-year-olds.
So Brown,
I don't think it's with the cost. Like, come on. Like, when you look at what we did with the Roof Fan and Roof Swarm, that's doing what, about 13 to 15,000 downloads a week right now, right? And you know, how much do we spend other than our time, which is valuable, I guess? But the cost in that was, you know, let's say we used our pro accounts, so it's like, you know, 4 of us, so $800 a month in cost to use our Max account on Claude. And if you look at what the derivative of that, like Claude Flow, which is doing quite well, is also, we're sitting around 150,000 downloads since the launch in June, and right now I think we had 60,000 active users in the last month. So that was built for $200, right? And we're talking about something that's now, you know, downloaded tens of thousands of times a week, you know, for $200.
I want to mention something. I think what we're trying to get at is the kind of agency, the things that you can achieve, you can do, is unimaginable before, especially in the sense that you don't need to understand and learn it before you do it, which is something people never been able to do that before. So in the specific example of Roof Fan, there were some CPU and GPU issue. I've never done like that level of programming before, and then especially do that in Rust. However, with patience, I'm willing to sit it down. I use whatever methodology and resource I can find, and then eventually they just work because I trust the methodology and the process. And I think that mindset is a fundamental shift. People can learn a lot better by start doing a functional thing, and then you kind of break it down, and you are an expert at the end of it.
Okay, we have 15 minutes left, and I want to spend the next 15 minutes with our crystal balls. So I'll start with a simple one, and we'll progress in. What do you think the next big technical leap that will make agents significantly more reliable will be?
Oh, you guys are setting me up on a question like that. So right now, the general sort of attitude in the industry is parameters and brute force of the creation of these models. So the idea is rather than taking the most efficient means to solve a problem, I'm going to try to use a GPU and solve all the problems and get the best answer from all possibilities. Brute force, right? And when you see that in parameter models, you know, I'm gonna use more and more GPUs to solve bigger and bigger problems. No, there's a plateau, and we've seen the plateau. It's pretty clearly at a certain point, it really makes no difference. The real value in interesting parts isn't in the large monolithic systems that we've been building over the last few years, but in super small scale micro versions of that are optimized not for broad things, but for specific things. And the key, in my opinion, is temporal. When you look at what these systems do, the more time and the way time plays into these systems make them work more efficiently. So if you can tune those sort of timing variables, how quickly those loops sort of loop back on themselves, the more you can control the thinking process of these models. So and when you look at how the human brain works, our brain perceives information around 60 to 100 milliseconds, roughly how long it takes you to blink. Now, we are using computer systems are able to work a factor of 1,000 to 10,000 times faster than how fast your human sort of mind works. And the key to sort of making these systems sort of more adaptive is working within the constraints of time. So once you have that, you can create these agents that exist for a moment and solve and can think in a sort of lateral fashion. What's happening, what's happened, and what will happen. And that can all happen within less than a microsecond. So think a millisecond, a thousand increments of a second, then you have a microsecond and so on. We're able to squeeze that down really, really, really tight. That allows us to create models that don't require GPUs because they only need to do a very, very small thing and understand a very small part of that thing and then move on. So kind of like a synapse in your brain that's malleable enough to change what it needs to do based on the situation in which it's being used, storing a memory, thinking about something, and executing. That, in my opinion, is the future of where these models are going. So what we're going to see over the next probably few years, we're going to see this sort of microization of models where you've lots of tiny little neural nets that do very particular things connected to other little neural nets, agents, whatever the hell you want to call it, and they're able to effectively collaborate and solve the problem just in the moment in which they need to solve that problem.
Wow.
So I think what Ruth was explaining is the network effects of a lot of specialization tiny neural networks. Like in my opinion, there really isn't any going to be a leap, so to speak. We are the benefit and impact from this technology will be coming from broad adoption from domain experts. Specifically, let's say if your doctor understands this technology and willing to work with it, and then he will be a lot more efficient and accurate. And that is what this agency is really about. It is going to move everybody kind of upwards in a way if they're trying to, or if they are willing to delegate that power and then learn it and then entrust with the process. That domain, each domain lifting up, improving the quality, providing more services. That is the realist, immediate impact that we can see. And then there is no one leap to that.
Yeah, I think like we have enough tech right now. We could just pause it, and how long would it take for the humanity to catch up, right? Every time I take a look outside of this bubble, it's a zero. Like I'm in a consultant groups, guys are doing shows for 30, 40, 50 people, and not a single one of them has even used ChatGPT, so we're a long way from the human society, from just catching up to current levels. I mean, where is the future for our little micro niche of AI dev? I don't know. I mean, we have right now, if you are running, let's say we want to get away from the data center, they're building $8 trillion data centers left and right. But if you can run quite a bit on, say, a GPU, the problem most people have is the RAM. The models are giant, billion parameter, but you should be able to create your own sort of model from a menu. You could say, hey, I only want English. I don't need it to speak 50 languages, and I'm only doing I don't know, Python or something. It's a very small subset of what a current LM can do, and you should be able to get the size way down and maybe you can run everything on a local GPU. You know, they have the training seems to be speeding up. I don't know, was it DeepSeek or Quen is just cranking? Quen, I think, just released something sort of like the menu. It had 8 different models. It was like math, coding, you know, translation. So it was starting to break models down into specialties. If you can get the same quality, if I can get equivalent of Anthropic Sonnet on a, you know, 10 gigabyte, $100 GPU, well, now you don't need a massive data center, because a lot of the Aru's been trying to make these sort of distributed low power systems. Like if you can capture the CPU and GPU we currently have and somehow make use of that, you've opened up, I don't know, a trillion parameter for every neighborhood, right? So how to get sort of distributed computing going to harness the current. I've got a garage full of 20 grand of idle, you know, machines rotting away. So if we can put our existing hardware to use on small models, and then that would be awesome, I think.
Can you speak to small models a little bit? I think that's a topic everybody's sort of familiar with. Yeah, see, there he is.
We have this
You guys don't
question.
know Harsha? You should know Harsha.
Yeah,
Like,
yes.
yeah.
The answer is yes. And the swarm, and a couple of weird. There's a lot of emergent behaviors of swarms. One, I have no idea why the queen calls herself Seraphina when I don't tell her that her name is Seraphina, or I think it's her, and it's Seraphina. And you know, why does that name keep coming up for me? And why do other certain names keep coming up for others? It's weird. But regardless, the collection of these swarm systems collaborating, communicating, cooperating gives them you know, an enhancement of capability more than the sum of their parts, which is really weird. So if you take 5 agents, they are actually more like 25 times more capable than having them run, you know, in 5 sequential steps. And the other thing that's interesting, when you look at agents, they work better, and this might be self-evident, in odd numbers. So 2 agents suck, 3 agents are amazing, 4 agents terrible, 5 agents great. Weird. So in that look, when you look at nature, you see that frequently, where things self-organize into sort of the, you know, the golden ratio and other things that are inherently odd numbers, and there's a tendency towards things like primes, which we aren't telling it about. There's a tendency towards sublinear sort of octagonal shapes and directional components that we can use to optimize the various algorithms. And these are emergent properties of the system. These are things that we didn't explicitly train it to do, but somehow or other, it sort of inherently understands and self-organizes around. And it's just mind-boggling. Now, when you apply that really, really, really fast and repetitively, you see these sort of naturally occurring patterns that mimic the things that we see in our own brain. So when you start moving really, 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 really quickly, the shape of the information changes from a kind of binary to a wave pattern. The wave pattern, self-emergent, nobody knows. I don't know why the wave pattern shows up, but the wave pattern mimics the wave patterns found in our brains.
Does it make you nervous when you don't know?
Wow.
We have no idea why. Zero.
Right.
I look at this all day and like, what the hell? This can't be true.
Does that freak you out though? A little bit?
A little bit. So there's definitely emergent properties. And the when you think about what we're conjuring some form of intelligence that is a combination of our very own thoughts and information that we put out there and trained it on. And that somehow is bringing information from a latent space, a space beyond our perception, bonkers, that is able to then, you know, synthesize this in a way that's meaningful to us. That is the very essence of AI, right? When it's a prediction system that's predicting the next word, but somehow or other, it's capable of understanding.
My
Yeah,
way of thinking around this is precisely because I do not want to lose control over a system and I feel scary about it. So, like my way of thinking around this is very structured, highly planned, scripted orchestration. That is how I think enterprises will have the confidence and trust in adopting such technologies. So, for example, of the compliance, emergent behavior is probably not a great idea in terms of that way. Like, yeah, like for innovation of technology, that is definitely great. But for a lot of things, we don't need always the best. A lot of things, just having some kind of a little AI model in there may already help automate and then reduce some of their workflow costs and then make the people who use those life easier. So even with the current technology, there are way too much to be done. We are not harnessing what we already have. While I mean, what Ruth said is really fascinating, and then maybe the route to AGI. But before that happens, people can already improve their life.
But Ocean, didn't you call your system Line AGI? Are you AGI in name only, or are you? Or
No. AGI is what I believe in, but I think there is going to be a certain way to achieve that. That is, there isn't going to be a single route. And then also, I think we human fantasize the word AGI. It is the thing that you cannot achieve that is called AGI.
And we anamorphize it. We pretend and give it like human-like qualities and characteristics. Like it's somehow going to be some kind of mirror of ourselves. When the reality is it's likely going to be some form of alien intelligence that we completely cannot comprehend.
That's why I deliberately do not even have an agent abstraction within the Line AGI. I really think of them as just a process, like an agentic flow, kind of like a cloud code session. It's just a process of it retrieving information, sending out events to the system, doing actions. Question: with all these new AI tools, one thing we always have in common is learning. As a neurodivergent, I enjoy learning new AI tools. Has anyone created an automated workflow for learning? I'm currently working on multimodal workflow. So for learning, I would go, my suggestion is to achieve something, do it, make it functional, and then learn the process of how AI actually made it work, and then try to rebuild it yourself. You can basically learn anything.
Well, yeah, just to be specific to his question, yes, if we look at the MTPs that I'm releasing, specifically, if you're looking at self-learning systems, then you want to explore a number of different tools. My cutting edge work right now is something I call the sublinear travel solver. The sublinear time solver. But basically, this is a series of tools that allow you to create systems capable of self-learning and self-modification. And using all the crazy stuff that I've been telling you about today, you can install that as an MCP within things like Claude Code, and then you can invoke this and have it say basically mimic the style that I think in, learn in, operate in, and then you can try different variants on that. You can take it a step further. You can apply this particular model to say, look at all previous predictions. So let's say I'm trying to predict the outcome of a stock or someone voting or whatever. I can then create a kind of temporal path that models all the possibilities of what may happen over the next time frame. That could be 100 milliseconds, 5 minutes, a week, whatever it needs to do. And then it maps that instantly against the previous steps and outcomes of that to try to predict what the likely future of a given decision will be. That's what these systems are now capable of modeling in real time. So if you're looking at crazy, that's where you want to go.
Wow. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And one more
Mind
sentence.
blowing.
Yeah.
It is mind blowing.
Yeah.
And here's the problem. There's one problem I'm going to tell you guys. When you look at these systems, and if you ask the Claude, is this total bullshit? It'll say yes, 100%. It's total bullshit. And if you ask it if it's the best thing that ever's happened, you're gonna take over the world with it. Of course you are. remember these systems are going to feedback an answer directly related to the thing in which you're asking it, right? So and this is why it's so dangerous for things like people with psychological conditions, because it's a reinforcement loop of what you already believe. So when using these systems, what you're doing is you're threading the needle between reality, or our perception of what reality is, versus what this system believes reality should be. And that creates this idea of a hallucination. But the hallucination is actually the most creative part of the tool itself, because it weaves in between this kind of latent space that says this should exist because everything that relates to it does exist, but it doesn't exist. And if you can play within that particular space and you can control that in a way that is measurable and useful, like it does something I actually want it to do and solves a real problem, then you're capable of inventing net new novel things in that area, that gray area in between what exists and what's completely fabricated.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Saturday, that's it.
Brian, do you have something?
Yeah, I mean, what I like to do is just think of it as you have a 200 billion parameter physics model in front of you, right? So nobody really knows how the thing is working. And when you use something like Swarm, you're able to say bypass the, instruction set and go, let's say, a level up. So now you're just in the middle of the physics or the 200 billion parameters. And even though you haven't really given it hard guardrails, just giving that model the general idea of Swarm seems to work, because there's nothing keeping Claude Code or on in the Swarm path. Like, we just say make a mesh, but there's nothing keeping it in the mesh. It's just it so we're giving it a mental model to work with, and that seems to actually work. You can go. So if you are going to structure, like if you're a human and you're going to perform a set of tasks, often we find giving ourselves a light framework for that works better than just randomly come up with a new way to do it every day. So the Swarm is sort of giving the model, here's what we think is a great way to solve this issue on a fundamental level. And you can break your tasks into agents, and you can organize communication between these agents given these instructions. That's what we do. We give it a small set of sort of master instructions to keep them organized, and you make one the orchestrator and the other one's the sub agents. But it definitely works. We've done one-shot applications and things that a single agent could never do. And then right after, Anthropic released agents. They made agents part of Claude Code. So
they were heavily influenced. They used their same nomenclature. Everything that we did in Roof Swarm and Roofan. I guess we lost Ocean, but it was direct derivative. Not to say, I'm saying it. They totally ripped it. They literally took the same stuff and rebranded it to the way we were doing it.
Well, you're so generous though and public, and people like me are very grateful, but also think like, ooh, yeah, they have to steal from him because he's kind of the leader. So it makes sense, but
it wasn't just me. Braun, Ocean,
right.
we had Jed in there. This was a collective effort, and I just want to, and sometimes I get all the some of the glory, but it's the team here that really.
It's the follower count.
We learn from each other, and one of the reasons why we spend so much time on these sorts of calls and interacting in a direct human way is it balances all that artificial for us.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Do you guys argue about like superheroes and stuff too?
No, we just argue about which LLM model is the best.
I sense that. That's why I asked about superheroes, because I could feel like you guys would definitely, kind of really debate, and I think it's awesome. I could feel like the camaraderie between you guys, and I love it. I love it so much.
What I love about Braun is he's our cynic, and we need Braun, right? He takes, because oftentimes I believe my own hype or drink my own Kool-Aid or whatever it is, and you need that balance of opinion. And that I think that the various members of our crew bring really interesting different perspectives. And as long as we're open to hearing those perspectives, we end up creating more interesting things.
Yeah, sons of autonomy. I feel like you guys are like a biker gang that only, not. Like,
Yeah.
Love the
right.
combination of you guys. Yeah.
We're 5 minutes over, but real quick before we go, everybody wants to know like what skills are gonna keep me working. So if you just rattle off a couple each, and we'll wrap after that.
You want to go, Bron?
Yeah, I would say open mind, problem solving, and never give up. Right. This is right now that there is actually huge opportunity for anyone who wants to just sit down and go for it. I mean, this is a brand new field, so there are like just what I've seen from guys that were, let's say, horsing around with AI to getting, 6-figure jobs. Obviously, if you're willing to just sit there and you just need to work on the core skills, because as the model gets better, the specialty skills are out the window completely. Like as every new language, like we're programming in 8 different languages. It's no longer TypeScript versus Rust versus Python. It's, pick any language you want. So then it's not, I know this specialty language. It's, I understand the bigger picture. I can problem solve. So if you're going to be the human in the loop, you need to get good. You need to practice. So start working with AI, get its output, critique it, correct it, go back, and work on that sort of as a modern human, and pick a niche that you like and a domain, and get good at human in the loop.
Wow, I love that you didn't just rattle off like a language and a tool or whatever. That was like very encompassing. I love that. Go ahead, Ruth.
I think everyone asks, how do I become an agentic engineer? And so first and foremost, I believe that agentic engineering is going to be a profession, and it'll probably be one of the more impactful professions in the near future. So one of the things you can do to start learning about the sort of nature of where and how an agentic engineer fits into sort of the new corporate structure and business landscape is to realize that you're going to wield significantly more capability within the job in which you're doing. So my vision for the space is basically you'll see business units, larger business units probably get, a dedicated agentic engineer. Their job is to sort of use these newfound skills to iterate, build, understand problems in a way that was not particularly effective before. So they're able to do the work of many much more quickly. To do that, that's mostly an orchestrator, a director. And when you look at creativity as a graphic designer, and by the way, I'm a reformed graphic designer as well. I was a designer. I started my career there. So the reason I think that I'm able to build and do the things I am is because I bring a designer mindset to it. I think things on a creative basis. I'm empathetic to how others might react in terms of using or understanding my technology. All the things a graphic designer brings, right? And that sort of creative mindset, the ability to interact with technology, not from a technical standpoint, but from a that creative, empathetic standpoint, ultimately makes me anyway more effective in this role. You still have to understand the nature of what you're interacting with and the problems in which you're solving. But the great thing is this technology acts as a universal translator for complicated things into the way that you think. If you don't understand it, ask it in a way that's meaningful to you. And eventually you will understand it. It doesn't have to be, explained in a way that's meaningful to someone else who thinks differently than you do. And that's why I'm able to create these things, because I'm able to ask the right questions in a way that's meaningful to the ways that I need to interact with this technology. And that takes my neurodivergence or whatever you want to call it and amplifies it. So this isn't a direct answer, but basically you have to look in and think, how do I think? How do I work? How do I understand the world around me? And how can I plug this into that? You figure that out, and anything's possible.
Amazing.
Not
Oh, I have
bad.
so many more questions, but we have to wrap. I really want to know about everybody's queen's names. I'm so curious. Like, what are all the names? I'm so curious about that. Bron, what's your queen's name?
I don't name anything. So,
I thought they named themselves.
They do. They name themselves. Ask the hive mind what her name is or his. I'm not sure if you need a pronoun.
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well,
mine's Serafina. And one last thing, Serafina. So it sort of just randomly named itself Serafina, and my wife was like, "What's Serafina? How do I know that?" Turns out it's a high angel, and it's the angel of angels, if you will. It's the orchestrator of and it's a benevolent angel. And as far as queen bees go, I again never heard of Serafina, didn't know it was a thing, but it's a pretty good name. Just so I'm not gonna lie, and
that gave me
I never
chills a
named
little bit.
Yeah, it just emerged. It just kind of one day it started calling itself that, and ever since it's kind of stuck with me. Different projects, different swarms. It always names itself that. So now it's kind of my matriarch of agents or something.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I would love to be more involved in the work you do. I've said this to you before. I don't write code, and you said neither do I. Come on in, and I kind of that really inspired me and made me feel like I can do the things I don't think I can do. So from afar, you've done that for me. So thank you very much for that confidence that now I feel like I'm ready now. And I think a lot more ladies need to get involved. Like, right? You probably have a lot of sausage fest meetings.
Yeah.
There are some great
Definitely.
ladies I'd love to bring into the circle if you'd love to have us. Thank you for coming on. I just was so appreciative that you guys took the time to show up on a weekend morning. Ocean had the drop. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you out there. I mean, you'll never get rid of me. I'm the president of the fan club. So thank you all. Manaz, do you want to say anything in closing?
I just wanted to say thank you to you. I learned a lot today, and you make me excited to go and explore more. And I took some notes. I'm gonna start like right away after this. Like, I'm so excited. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
thanks.
Cool.
it's been my pleasure, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate all the work that you're doing with this as well. And we're inclusive. If you want to join or become involved in any of the work we're doing, agentix.org. We've got a community where we're just passionate about all the crazy stuff we've been talking about today, and really, and we're doing meetups all across the globe. I think we are in several dozen cities. So if you're interested in joining one of those, you're more than welcome. We meet in person. And thank you. I really appreciate you giving me a little extra attention today. It means a lot to us.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you guys are doing a great job of bridging the gap. That's the hardest part, it's getting to everyone else and different types of people, different genders of people. So you guys are doing an awesome job of bridging the geek to the regular people.
Yeah.
I love my nerds. All right, you all. Thank you so much. We really appreciated you joining.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.